So if we start at the lowest crawl possible and we go through the entire trigger pull and we switch into our higher power mode, you can literally see that there is no hesitation or change at all. So in the last couple videos we did on the channel about the Radiomaster MT12, I pretty much told you that it wasn't for me for racing, and most of it was because of comfort, but because of the capabilities, and we'll go over that in this video of this beautiful graph in paint that I made, and the price of the receivers and the radio and all the cool things that you can do with it. I'm going to tell you why it's probably the best radio ever for RC crawlers. So I'm Chad. This is the Dorky and 40 RC channel. Let's talk about the MT12 today for crawlers. Now, a lot of different people in the RC crawler world have tried to explain their way through the ExpressLRS, why this radio was so good, but they fail to understand where the actual power comes from. The closest person that got to this was Conrad Ferrati, because he flew FPV and he knows certain things. So let's go over the basic things first. 130 bucks. Receivers are like $15 to $20. 3-channel, 5-channel, full telemetry, open source, all this cool stuff. You can see I've got like a 1/4 mount on here for the GoPro. We've got thumb driving, all that kind of fun stuff. Big battery in here that's never going to die. Talks to you, got all the programming, all of that kind of stuff. All the receivers come with this cool little voltage sensing wire that you can hook up and just solder in on your positive output of your ESC, so that way you get your battery voltage right there on your radio and you can make it talk to you. You can set up alerts, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So that's all included out of the box. Every one of the little ExpressLRS Radiomaster receivers comes with that wire. So super handy for your battery voltage, especially now that we're running these baby packs on our crawlers. We don't want to get stuck out in the trails not knowing what our battery voltage is. You can set up timers, do all that kind of fun stuff. But let's take a real quick deep dive into ExpressLRS versus Spectrum or something else, and it's specifically how it works with AM32 ESCs, and I'm going to show you some running video of just how great it is. So the big thing about ExpressLRS, and this is all documented, it's all been logged with flight controllers and all that stuff inside the FPV world. So all of this is fact. If we look at this signal, and none of this of course is to scale or very pretty, I just drew this in paint real quick, but if we look in the top left hand corner, ExpressLRS sends packets at 2 millisecond latency. All right, fast, predictable. It is always on point. Very rarely will drop frames. Of course, sometimes it can, but 99% of the time, you are going to have a perfect, beautiful signal coming from ExpressLRS. Spectrum DSMX runs at about 22 milliseconds of latency. And a lot of people are going to say, well, you can't feel any of that stuff anyway. And it's like, we might not be able to feel it, but the electronics can. And eventually that can translate to your actual wheel or your throttle. The one thing that has been documented about Spectrum, FR Sky, and everybody else is that within that 22-second packet rating, which also on your lower end systems can be variable. Spectrum most of the time did run at 22 milliseconds, if I remember, but certain protocols can have way longer or shorter periods when they're sending information. So you just don't have this beautiful fast frequency that is consistent. It gets choppy, it speeds up, it slows down, and the more generic radio protocols can do this even more, and that affects things. Now, where this really comes into play with us is with this new AM32 stuff. And this was what Conrad was saying. He was talking about how this transition period of throttle. When we go from the low sinusoidal mode to like a medium or high powered setting, which is just, you know, your standard ones and zeros that basically look like this ExpressLRS, he noticed that he thought everything in that transition felt smoother. I noticed with my Spectrum, now that I have tried it on this, is that there is a little bit of a kind of a kick or a pause. It's it's minimal for sure. But I did notice now with the ExpressLRS that it's almost indistinguishable going from low power to high power. As well as I thought the low power control was actually a lot better too. It felt a lot smoother and a little bit easier to control. Now, that could have been just a little bit of the radio itself, but I'm going to wrap up a lot of it and say that it was the ELRS protocol that was doing it. So, all the information that I'm giving you combined with all of everything else, the pricing, everything, there's no reason why, if you have multiple crawlers or even basher type of RC vehicles, you wouldn't want to eventually try to replace that stock radio system with something like this. That way you know that you're getting the best performance possible and you can actually feel it. So let's check out this video. I'm going to run the running footage. I'm losing my voice right now from talking and allergies, so I will let you guys go. Check this out. You'll see what I'm talking about, and I talk about it in the running video as well. We'll see you on the next video. Peace. Even more than I had before on the bottom end, I think, which, you know, it's kind of hard to judge that, but I think we can definitely see the benefit of ExpressLRS running this AM32 stuff. Take this over a little bit. Just watching the negative G do its thing. See that tire dragging there on the side hill. We can try to keep this up and side hill this, which is no problem at all. I think the shock mod that we did is making a pretty big difference. A couple little obstacles I've been working on back here. This brick setup is pretty nice and challenging. I like it a lot. Just got to take different lines for the different rigs to get over the various things. You can see we're hung up there in the front. Able to power through that one. So we're pushing it again in the front. Back up a little bit. Roll that tire up on that. Go. Oh, it fell off. I think reverse is a little punchy. I like to turn that down a little bit. Maybe either in the ESC or in the radio. But yeah, I mean, I am pretty much thinking even the low speed control is better with the ExpressLRS. And then we can just kind of roll it on out. And we've pretty much just got a smooth trigger all the way through now. I think we're going to get hung up again there. We have to really come at this. taking this inside line here and just making this thing really get all upset. Just look at those tires and those squid inserts. Could probably use a little bit more trigger tension. I could feel myself pulling a little bit tight on this radio again. The grip is just not super comfortable. I mean, I could definitely deal with it for crawling, but you know, like I said in my racing review, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. So I mean, this combination of this car and the tires and the radio and the inserts, it just, I don't really know what it really couldn't do. Some people might say, oh, this isn't that fun, you can just get over everything. Well, you're not going to be able to get over everything, but it sure is fun trying, compared to just things that you know you're not going to be able to make it over anything.